Imagine a man so wealthy, respected, and God-fearing that his very name made people nod in admiration. His house was full of laughter, his fields full of cattle, and his heart full of reverence for God. Yet in a single day, this man would lose it all: his wealth, his children, his health, even the loyalty of those closest to him. His name? Job. But what really happened behind the scenes of Job's suffering? And why would God allow such a man to go through unimaginable pain? Stick with me, because Job's story is not just about suffering, it's about a mystery, a test, and a comeback that will leave you questioning your own life. Job lived in the land of Uz, a region far from Israel. He wasn't just rich, he was the richest man in the East. He owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, and a vast household of servants. But Job wasn't defined by wealth, he was defined by character. The Bible calls him blameless and upright. He feared God, shunned evil, and cared deeply for his family. Every time his sons and daughters gathered to feast, Job would wake up early the next morning to offer burnt sacrifices, saying, "Perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." Can you see the picture? A man at the peak of life, wealthy, respected, a devoted father. He seemed untouchable. But in the unseen world, a storm was brewing. One day the angels presented themselves before God, and Satan was there too. God asked, "Where have you come from?" Satan replied, "From roaming the earth." Then God pointed at Job. "Have you considered my servant Job? There is none like him." Satan laughed. "Does Job fear you for nothing? You've built a hedge around him. Take it away, and he will curse you to your face." And here comes the shocking part. God gave Satan permission. Everything he has is in your power, but do not lay a hand on the man himself. Think about it. Job had no idea a conversation in heaven had just signed him up for the hardest test of his life. One normal day, Job's servants rushed in with devastating news. First messenger: "The Sabians raided and carried off your oxen and donkeys. Your servants are dead." Before he could finish, another came. "Fire from heaven fell and burned your sheep." Another ran in. "The Chaldeans raided your camels and killed your servants." And finally, the worst news: "A mighty wind struck the house where your sons and daughters were feasting. The house collapsed. They are dead." Pause and picture this. Job, once the richest, happiest father in Uz, now stood in ruins. In just minutes, he went from celebration to devastation. And what did he do? Job tore his robe, shaved his head, fell to the ground and worshipped, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." This wasn't normal grief, this was extraordinary faith. But Satan wasn't finished. He returned to God and said, "Skin for skin. Strike his flesh, and he will curse you." And God allowed it, but warned him, "Very well, he is in your hands, but do not touch his soul." Soon Job was covered head to toe with painful sores. He sat in ashes, scraping himself with a broken piece of pottery. His wife, broken by grief, snapped, "Are you still holding on to your integrity? Curse God and die." Job looked at her and said, "Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" Even now he refused to curse God. When Job's three friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, heard what happened, they traveled to comfort him. For 7 days they sat in silence, shocked by his suffering. But soon their silence turned into accusations. "Job, you must have sinned. You brought this upon yourself." Instead of comfort, they gave him judgment. Have you ever noticed, when you're down, some people don't lift you up? They push you deeper? Job defended himself, crying out, "Why was I even born? My days have no meaning." At Job's lowest point, God finally spoke. Not with pity, but with questions. "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Can you bring forth the constellations? Do you give the horse its strength?" God reminded Job, "I am God. My ways are beyond your understanding." Job realized he had spoken of things too deep for him to know. And then came the turnaround. God restored Job's fortunes, double what he had lost. 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, 1,000
Your
donkeys,
story
and
differs
10
from
more
the time.
children.
What's telling
Job
story?
lived 140 more years and saw his children to the
Your
fourth
story
generation.
differs with the
His
time.
latter
What's
days were
telling
more
story?
blessed than his beginning. Job's story is more than history, it is a mirror of real life. Many of us today know what it feels like to lose everything we once held dear. Maybe you've lost your job, your savings, or your business. Maybe you've buried loved ones. Maybe your health has failed, or friends you trusted turned their backs on you. Maybe, just like Job, you look around and ask, God, where are you? Job's pain wasn't because he sinned. It was a test. Some of the storms you face are not to destroy you, but to prove the strength of your faith. Job's friends judged him, his wife gave up on him, but God still stood by him. Don't let human voices drown out God's plan for you. For a long time, Job heard nothing from heaven, but when God spoke, it changed everything. Silence is not abandonment, it's preparation. Job could have cursed God, but instead, he worshiped. Your attitude in the storm can shape your outcome. Worship can be more powerful than complaint. Job received double of what he lost. Your current chapter is not the end. God can rewrite your story with greater blessings than you ever imagined. Job's pain wasn't because he sinned, it was a test. Some of the storms you face are not to destroy you, but to prove the strength of your faith. Job's friends judged him, his wife gave up on him, but God still stood by him. Don't let human voices drown out God's plan for you. For a long time, Job heard nothing from heaven, but when God spoke, it changed everything. Silence is not abandonment, it's preparation. Job could have cursed God, but instead he worshiped. Your attitude in the storm can shape your outcome. Worship can be more powerful than complaint. Job received double of what he lost. Your current chapter is not the end. God can rewrite your story with greater blessings than you ever imagined. If you're watching this video right now and you feel broken, depressed, or empty like Job, hear this. Your pain is not permanent. The God who restored Job is still God today. Yes, you've cried. Yes, you've been misunderstood. Yes, you may have lost everything. But if you hold on, if you keep your faith, if you draw closer to God, your own restoration is coming. You may have lost money, but you haven't lost God. You may have lost friends, but you haven't lost God. And if you still have God, you have everything you need to start again. So remember this, Job recovered all, and so can you.